Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For this session, we will continue with the lymphatic system and we will discuss the body defense mechanism. In our body, we are always in contact with microorganisms, with a lot of pathogen, and it is daily. It is there present in our life, present in our environment, present in our body also. So the body, it has to have some defense mechanism against those invaders, against those organisms that might cause disease, in order to prevent the hazard and the effect of the bad effect of them in our body. So the body constantly in contact with bacteria, fungus, and virus. The body has two defense systems for fighting those material or those viruses and bacteria. The material from the innate system, so it is divided those to two types: the innate or non-specific defense mechanism. So we have a system which is called the non-specific defense mechanism or immune system, which is the innate one. The second one, which is the adaptive specific defense mechanism. And the immunity, it is the specific resistance to a disease. So also always our body is in a battle, we are fighting for preventing the microorganism from causing disease and invading our body. An overview of the body defense mechanism, the immune system here. If we come to the innate non-specific defense mechanism, it is divided to the first line defense mechanism and the second line defense mechanism. The third line, it is the adaptive or specific defense mechanism. So let us take the first line of defense mechanism. The first line of defense mechanism, it is consists of the skin, mucous membrane, so they are acting as a barrier. Those barriers will prevent the microorganism from entering our body and causing disease. So they are acting as the wall that prevent any invader to come inside. Then also within the skin and the mucous membrane, we have also secretion. That secretion will keep the skin and the mucous membrane also smooth, and will keep it from getting cracks. So it will keep it intact. So it will prevent any cracks, that it will be a space for those invaders to come inside. And also those secretion, it is for there are some enzymes that kill microorganisms. So the second line of defense mechanism, which is the phagocyte cell. The phagocyte cells, we will come to it, that it will engulf the microorganism regardless to the type of that microorganism. So it will engulf it, and then it will be distracted by the enzyme of the phagocyte, and then it will be discarded from the body. Also, we have the natural killer. The natural killer, also we will come to explain it more. The natural killer, they are not phagocyte, they are not engulfing the microorganism, they are destroying the membrane of the cell. And by destroying the membrane of the cell, then the cell, it will be lysis and it will be destroyed. Also, there is the intimate microbial protein, which is there in our body, and the inflammatory responses and fever. We will discuss also all of them in the coming sessions, and those will lead to a media that will prevent the growth of microorganisms or inhibit the growth of the microorganism. The second part of the immune system, which is the adaptive specific immune system. In the adaptive specific immune system, from its name, it is adaptive to the change. So it is adaptation of the body to the change or to the presence of some foreign materials by producing an antibodies for them. So third line of, which is the third line of defense mechanism, it includes the lymphocyte, it will include the antibodies, which will be formed against, specifically against a specific microorganism or bacteria or virus, and we have the macrophage and other antigen presenting cells. So macrophage and other presenting cells also is. So again, for the non-specific defense mechanism, as we said, it is mechanism protect against a variety of invaders. So it is non-specific to a certain type of invader. It will act generally in all invaders, responding immediately to protect the body from foreign material. The innate body defense are mechanical barriers, the mechanical barriers to pathogen, the pathogen, which is any harmful substances or any harmful or disease-causing organism like bacteria, virus, fungus. And it includes the, as we said, the body surface covering, which is the intact skin and the intact mucous membrane. So when the skin is intact, it will act as a wall. With that, also mucous membrane is intact, it will act as a wall that prevent the passage of any substance, any harmful substances from outside environment of the body to the tissues, to our body tissues. So it is act as a wall that separates the internal environment of our body from the external environment. Also, secretion. There is in the skin and the mucous membrane, there are chemical secretion that's there. Those chemical secretion, it include the enzymes that will destroy, and it is an acid base that will destroy the microorganism and prevent the growth of pathogenic microorganism. There is also specialized human cells for non-specific defense mechanism. The adaptive specific defense mechanism, as we said, specific defense mechanism required for each type of invader. But here, the specific immune system, it needs some time in order to produce the antibody. So the production of, or the response for the first time, it will be minimum, it will be less, and it will take time. Because of that, we need the first line of body defense mechanism in order to protect us, because and to minimize the number of microorganisms that might enter in our body if it is able to enter. And when those microorganism, bacteria or virus or enter inside the body, if they are when they are entering in a minimal amount, then it will be discovered by the immune system, and the body will start to formulate an antibodies for them. This will take time because of the other non-specific defense mechanism will help in killing of those microorganisms, and both are working together in order to protect ourselves from the infection. So it is respond slowly in the first exposure, but in the second exposure, the specific defense mechanism, it will recognize the microorganism or the antigen immediately, and the response, it will be faster, and the peak or the amount of antibodies which it produced, it will be high. So, in summary, the non-specific body defense mechanism, it is, so the categories and association with element, the surface membrane barrier, which is the first defense, as we said, intact skin and epidermis. The intact skin also, it's form mechanical barriers, as we said, to prevent entry of pathogen and other harmful substances to our body. So, as we said, it is acting as a wall that prevent the passage of any material or any foreign substances and any pathogenic organism to our body. Then the acidic mantles there, which is the skin will secrete and make epidermis surface acidic. So it is from the secretion which is coming out from the skin that will make the skin surface acidic, which inhibit the bacterial growth. Also, we have the secretion of sebum, which contain bacterial killing chemicals that kill bacteria and prevent its growth. In the skin, we have also, it is composed from keratin. The keratin layer, sorry, to provide resistance against acid and alkaline and bacterial enzyme. So, the keratin, which is there in our skin, it provide resistance against the acid and alkaline and bacterial enzyme, so it will prevent cracking of the skin, causing cracking of the skin by those materials. And we said, as we said, the intact mucous membrane, it forms a mechanical barrier that prevents entry of pathogen. It is the same as the skin, but it is lining the internal organs, like the gastrointestinal tract, from mouth and to the anus. There is also nasal hair. The nasal hair, it will filter and trap microorganisms from the nasal pathway, so to prevent the it will take some of the contamination from the air and prevent it from passing down to the lungs. Cilia also proper the debris or land mucus away from the lower respiratory passage. So there are cilia in the respiratory tract that will prevent and move any substances which enter there, and it will excrete mucus and will be removed out of the respiratory system. The gastric juice. The gastric juice, it contains concentrated hydrochloric acid. That hydrochloric acid, yes, it is used for digestion of our food, but also it will digest and it will also destroy the microorganism that might pass to our stomach through the food that we are taking. So it contains concentrated hydrochloric acid and protein digestive enzyme that destroy pathogen in our stomach. Also, the acid miniate of the vagina, it inhibits the growth of bacteria and also fungi in the female reproductive tract, the female reproductive system. The lacrimal secretion, or the tears, also it is there to lubricate the eye, prevent it from drying, and being and cracking, prevent cracking, to prevent microorganisms from passing to the mucous membrane of the eyes, and also it contains enzyme in our tears that also destroy microorganisms and clean the eye. The saliva also, it contains lysosome and enzyme that destroy microorganisms. And also the saliva, it will keep our mucous membrane smooth and prevent it from getting dry. The non-specific also defense mechanism, body defense mechanism, the category and the associated elements, we had the cellular and chemical defense, which is the second line of defense mechanism. So now we will come to the second line of defense mechanism. One of them, which is the phagocyte. The phagocyte, the function of it is to engulf and destroy the pathogen that breach the surface membrane barriers. So we said the first line is like a wall. It will prevent the passage, or it will keep the internal environment separated from the external environment and prevent the exposure to microorganisms. But if the bacteria is able to pass through either the mucous membrane or the skin, in this case, it will be faced by the phagocyte. So, and macrophage also contribute to immune response. So they will be engulfing those foreign or antigen which is coming inside out. The natural killer cell. So the phagocyte, they are engulfing the microorganism. The natural killer, it promotes the cell lysis by direct cell attack against various infection or the body that constitutes the body cells. So it is the natural killer. It will kill, it will destroy them, but it is not engulfing them. It will destroy the cell membrane of the bacteria or the virus or the cancer cell, then it will destroy it. Inflammatory response. In the inflammatory response, it prevents the spread of the infection of an injured area to adjacent tissues and dispose of pathogen and the dead tissue cell and promote the tissue repair in the area that it get injured. So when an injury is there in an area, that inflammatory process, it will prevent that injury from spreading to other part of the body tissues. So try to localize it and to keep it at the area in order to fight it in that area. In this process, there will be production of chemical substances that attract the phagocyte and also the immune cell to the area, and by that it will destroy the bacteria, and also it will help in this will help the process will help in the healing process. We will discuss it fully later. We have the natural killer. The natural killer, as we said, they are cells which is circulated in our blood and also in the lymphatic system. It can lyse and disintegrate or dissolve or destroy and kill cancer cell, virus infected cells. So the cell which is infected by virus also it can be identified and it can be destroyed by the lysis of natural killer. The natural killer cells are also non-phagocytic, as we mentioned before. So they are not engulfing the microorganism or the infected cells. They are destroying it. They are releasing chemical which is called the porphyrins to target the cell's membrane and also the nuclei of that cell, which cause the disintegration of the cell and destruction of the cell. So it acts mostly on the cell membrane and the nuclei. So it will lead to lysis of the cell and destruction of the cell by destroying the cell membrane of that cell. The natural killer also release inflammatory chemicals. The inflammatory chemical that enhance the inflammatory process and enhance the healing process. If we come to the phagocyte, the phagocyte cells such as the neutrophils and macrophage engulf the foreign material into a vacuoles. So they are engulfing it. They are identifying the bacteria or the virus or the foreign materials or the antigen. Then they will engulf them. They will form a vesicles inside. Vesicule is fused with lysosome, which is an enzyme which destroys the engulfed bacteria or virus or the antigen or the dead cells. So it will contain lysosome and enzyme. From the lysosome digest the material. So it will be digested. So the macrophage will use the cytoplasmic extension. Those cytoplasmic extension, it will be used to pull the bacteria toward the spherical bacteria. Here it will be pulled toward the macrophage, and in this case macrophage it will be engulfed and formed here. So the phagocyte adhere to the pathogens. So after it is pulled toward the cell, it will adhere to the pathogens here, and then the phagocyte engulf the bacteria, forming a phagocytome here. So this is the phagocytomes. It will be changed to phagocyte vesicles. In the phagocyte vesicles, it will contain the lysosome, will fuse to it. So the lysosome from the phagocyte, it will fuse to the the vesicles and forming the phagocytosome. Lysosomal enzyme will digest the pathogen inside and leaving debris, leaving the residual to be exocytosis will be done to be excited outside the body, outside the cells. So exocytosis of the vesicle remove the ingredient or the residual of the bacteria or the virus or the antigen, and it will be washed out in order for excretion. So again, the phagocyte, it will attract and pull the bacteria by using the cytoplasmic extension of it. They will adhere to the membrane, to the cell membrane, to the phagocyte, adhere to the pathogen. It will be adhered to the pathogen. Then the phagocyte will engulf the particular forming. It will form the phagosome here, and then the lysosome will fuse to the vesicle which is formed here. It will fuse to it. Acid hydrolase enzyme will be there. That acid hydrolase enzyme, it will lead to destruction of that engulfed cell or bacteria or virus and lead to destruction of it. The lysosomal enzyme digest the pathogen or the debris and leaving a residual bodies inside. Then the exocytosis of the vesicle will remove the ingredients outside of the cells. So those are the events of phagocytosis. Next, we will come to the inflammatory process.